competitive for Haley was Virginia, because again, it's kind of connected to the swamp as is DC. However, somebody mentioned, I think Red Eagle Politics mentioned today, that he's thinking that it's possible that Haley could squeak out some victories in Vermont and Massachusetts. I'm imagining those are open primary states, and he's thinking that she might be able to kind of get enough Dem crossover votes there to kind of eke them out. We'll have to see. I think, however it turns out, Trump's going to have an overwhelming victory on the day. He's going to win the vast majority of the states. He's going to take the overwhelming number of delegates, and he's going to get that much closer to getting the number of delegates needed to outright win the nomination. So that's what I think is coming tomorrow. I think that Team Trump is looking forward to it. And as I told you off air, there was a rumor going around on Fox News today that Nikki Haley may not have any more advertisements or appearances booked up after tomorrow. So who knows? Maybe she'll decide to kind of change plans after what happens tomorrow. We're going to have to wait and see on that.
Very crazy, very crazy. Definitely are going to have to wait and see on that. And just a little bit of technical things. It looks like maybe there was a little bit of a technical thing on the live stream here. So we're actually going to go, there'll be a bonus, players. There'll be a bonus. We're going to go for a fifth segment today. And that's what we're going to do. We may have to reload some of that earlier discussion, but I think that I can't promise that, because honestly, we're probably going to go where it always, anywhere that it can go. And that's all over the place. In this new John D. Villarreal radio show, that's how it goes, because we always are talking about different things and we just keep rolling. So look, let's talk about this now. We've got the Super Tuesday. Nikki Haley's probably going to be blown out. Is she going to drop out? I mean, okay, so let's say she loses big on Super Tuesday. Do you think that she runs third party? Do you think she goes no labels? I mean, I think she's really kind of boxed herself in here, Paul. I really think it's a tough situation right now for her. What's next for Nikki Haley after tomorrow?
There's a lot of speculation about that, about whether she might go third party, specifically no labels. I don't know. I really don't know. I've told this to you off the air, which is, I think if she does go no labels, I don't know where it's going to leave her future. Because I don't see really how you run third party and then kind of come back to the main party. Now, if she were considering, say, to leave the Republican Party and then become a Democrat, well, maybe that works. But even that seems a little far-fetched. I mean, how many people have run third party who then go back to just like the normal nominee of one of the two main parties? I'm not saying it can't happen, but I have a hard time thinking that's going to happen, particularly if she were to run as a Republican now, go third party, and then try to come back as a Republican. It's like you're undercutting the nominee. I mean, that's not going to sit well with a number of Republicans. I mean, think how upset many Republicans were with Ted Cruz for what he did at the 2016 convention.
Still hasn't recovered fully. Still hasn't recovered fully on that. Yeah. I mean, he's doing okay, but definitely has not recovered fully, in my opinion.
That was a one-stop deal. If you actually run as a third party against the main Republican, I mean, what are you thinking? I don't understand. So I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, I think it would fit her kind of arc here to do that. It's the only way I think she will remain relevant beyond another 2 weeks or so. But in terms of a political future, I don't know how you can do that. And I told you, another thing I told you off air was that pollster Rich Barris, who has been doing recent speaking engagements in front of donor class type audiences, he's saying the donor class is getting tired of Nikki Haley. I mean, that was the group supporting her. People that might not be the biggest Trump fans. He's saying they're tired of her.
Wow.
Basically,
I'm just real quick here. We got Windmill on X. Looks like they're checking in from Arizona. Arizona, how about that? I mean, I just thought about that. Not to go back to a callback for the last segment. And again, just a programming note. We're going to go 5 segments right here. If you're looking live and on the radio, you're probably just going to hear the normal show. But if you're live, listening live, we're going 5 segments because I think that first one was a little bit messed up in terms of the live stream. But we are now technically okay. But I mean, we're thinking about, and we may re-up this discussion on who the Trump VP should be. We'll probably get back to that. But what about a Carrie Lake out there in Arizona running for Senate? I don't know if she, I don't know how that works. Probably not, because she's running for Senate. But Arizona, very, very important state right now. Obviously, another battleground state right there, Paul.
It is. Sorry about that. I forgot to take myself off. Yeah, Windmill's great. Windmill, great to see you, man. See him, of course, talk to him all the time on X. Yeah, Carrie Lake's there, but I will tell you this. I really believe that Carrie Lake is locked into the Senate election because I think that there's a good chance that she could win that election. And I think, like, people in the party, particularly MAGA people, want that to happen. So in other words, I don't know if they would want to take her off the chessboard from the Senate, so to speak. And so, or potentially being in the Senate. And so I just think that's something to keep in mind. Look, this is, if the donor class is becoming annoyed or kind of over Nikki Haley, the only people I would think that'd be propping her up would be big time Dem donors. And again, I mean, if you want to do their bidding potentially, then yeah, you go to a third party, but then you're done in the Republican Party. I mean, I just don't see how you can come back from that.
Definitely. And the Windmill comes back here. And just for our friends on X, and Paul's got over 17,000 followers on X. I've seen this on different shows. It seems like there's some, maybe, I don't want to say technical things, but there may be something particular that you have to do so that the comments show up, because otherwise I just see this stream of attempted, I see the name, but then we don't really have any kind of detail there. But I think somehow after the 20, 30 attempts, I think by Windmill, it did come over in terms of what he's saying here. And here's his comment: love Carrie, how you all. But Paul, I'll take thank you, Windmill, for that comment. We do appreciate it. And listen, if you want to give us comments, we can do that here. Can't take the calls live right now because this will be replayed on Newstalk 1040 this week. But one of the things I wanted to talk about on that, and then you make a great point, Paul, and that's, I mean, if you look at some of the alleged reporting, potential scandal there out of that race with the tape there, of maybe, someone trying to get, the people back east, friends back east, trying to get, allegedly, potentially trying to get, we're not alleging anything, trying to get Carrie Lake out of that race, that we need more MAGA people in the U.S. Senate. The U.S. Senate has been the one place that was really stymieing President Trump and the MAGA agenda with Mitch McConnell. And Mitch McConnell has said, that's another thing. And Mitch McConnell said, a minority leader, McConnell said that he is stepping down from that leadership position in November, still staying in the Senate. So we definitely need more MAGA Republicans in. My voice is kind of giving out a little bit. I'm going to have to let Paul run with this a little bit more. And I'll try to get a little lemon juice or something like that during the break. But, we do need more MAGA Republicans. And I think that, look, Carrie Lake has been great, big supporter of President Trump, definitely very vocal and part of the MAGA agenda. But I think that if you have Trump and Lake there, I think that they're already going to go. I mean, listen, you can't let the liberal media pick our candidates, and there's no doubt about it. I'm not trying to say that, but I do think that combination right now, I don't know. I mean, I could be convinced either way, but I'm not sure that's the strongest setup. But I also think that Carrie Lake would be very effective in the Senate. I think we need her there. I don't know. I could be convinced. I will say this. I'd much rather have a Carrie Lake than a Governor Noem. I'd much rather have a Carrie Lake than Governor Noem. And I think Carrie Lake would be extraordinarily effective. She's very, very good on camera. She knows how to hit it. But I go back. I'd still rather have a Vivek by far. I'd still rather have a Senator Vance. I'd still rather have a Dr. Oz. I mean, this is great. I mean, I would love to have a Byron. I would love to have a Byron Donalds. I think Byron Donalds, Representative Donalds, is fantastic. But the problem of it is that, he's from Florida. But at the same token, I think Anna Paulina Luna, Representative Anna Paulina Luna would be an interesting and excellent pick. But she's also from Florida, and that creates some different situations. Paul, maybe you can kind of explain a little bit of that. The good news is that we actually have a bench, whereas the Democrats are having a hard time with that. What your take on that, Paul?
Okay, a couple of things. Number one, you mentioned Lake and the whole shenanigans that may have taken place or apparently were recorded or whatever. Look, somebody told me about that works in Arizona politics. I'm not going to say their name, but they basically said that the reason that may have been taking place was because Kari Lake could be a decisive vote in the Senate for leadership positions. In other words, what if she doesn't support Mitch McConnell, which of course now is a moot point. We'll get to Mitch McConnell maybe later and who might replace him. But so in other words, that might have been part of the calculus in that. Like, hey, what if you don't run and what if you don't go to the Senate? And so Mitch McConnell or somebody else in Mitch's place doesn't have to worry about how you're going to vote for who the leader is. So that's what I heard about that. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But this person is in a position where they could know something like that or have good a feeling about it. Coming back to the other thing, I'm not sure what. I think that Kari Lake could be a great VP person. There's no question about that. She's absolutely 100% MAGA. There's no doubt. She's for the cause. She's with it the whole way.
Totally agree. Like in a vacuum, she's fantastic. But I think with all of the things that we're laying out, I think specifically right now with all of the things we're laying out and because we've got, listen, players, we got needs in the U.S. Senate, we got needs in the Congress, in the House, we got needs obviously at President, we got needs at the local level. There's needs all over the place. So with that, go ahead, Paul, continue.
Yeah, so I think that she could be great. I think there's no question about it. Coming to the Florida thing, Paulina Luna, Byron Donalds, etc. Can they do it being from the same state? The way you handle that is by declaring residency in another place where you own property. In other words, Trump could declare his residency in New Jersey, Bedminster. This was happening in the 2000 election with Cheney and Bush. Cheney lived in Texas, but they realized that he wasn't going to be able to do it because of that law. And so what did he do? He owned property in Wyoming, so he claimed Wyoming as his residency. I think the way what comes down to with that, where you are able to do that, is if you own property in that other state. Of course, Trump does own property in a variety of states, so I think that could be handled without much of a problem if you wanted to pick somebody like Byron Donalds.
Great analysis for Paul Villarreal right there. You can follow him on X. He's got over 17,000 followers over there now, and you can promote that here in a second. From Windmill, more comments from Windmill. I'd like to see JD Vance or Vivek as VP. And in regards to Kari Lake, he's saying we need her in the Senate. Appreciate those comments, Windmill. So, Paul, I mean, okay. First of all, talk about, this is probably a good time as any to talk about what you're doing on X, what's going on, how people can follow you there.
Yeah. So, and I don't know where you're seeing Windmill's comments, I can't see them, but it doesn't matter as long as you're seeing them. Okay. My X is at Aurelius Stoic 1, Marcus Aurelius. That's what it's for. Aurelius Stoic 1. I'm under my own name, Paul Villarreal. Although I used to have a different handle, you can see that. Got over 17,000 followers. We've got a great community. Come and join. Please come and follow me and follow John. John doesn't have as much time as I do to do things on Twitter, but he's building up his following. And of course, we want to make him as big as we can get to and spread it all around. But look, X is where it's happening. X is where everything is at. And particularly if you're, on the conservative side of things because I think there's more leeway in terms of what you can and cannot say as compared with some of the other social media networks. But the truth is that X is growing large. It's growing big every single day. And yeah, there might be more total Facebook users or whatever, but Facebook's on the way down and X is on the way up. And so we're very happy to be on X and building up. And we want to continue to do that. And of course, bring the radio show and podcast and everything else we can do on there. We're thrilled to have people like Windmill and other people who follow us and we follow them. And look, I follow most people back because I tend to keep my comments kind of closed to the people that I follow. It's just to kind of keep out all some of the trolling and that type of thing. And that's what we're looking for. And we have a lot of fun doing it.
I like it. Yeah, I appreciate that shout out. I definitely want to build up my X more. And you know, Paul's giving me a shout out and a lot of his followers have followed me and I appreciate that. And I'm just super busy right now. There's a lot of things going on and I'm probably going to be looking at some, you know, different strategic things for myself and the family this year and Paul, obviously. And we're looking at a lot of, but I mean, Elon and X and Tucker Carlson and all the rest of them, you know, probably going to be doing some stuff with X. I might be doing some stuff with Rumble. There's a lot of things that we're looking at. I mean, I know people at Rumble and they're so close and stuff like that. And I do think that if you look at what's going on, I mean, you know, listen, we definitely do have to talk about the Google AI, the Gemini AI and all that type of stuff. And we've got 5 segments today if you're looking live. And again, it'll be the normal show on radio on Newstalk 1040. But because of some technical stuff, we're going to go with 5 segments on the live. So we probably get to some of that as well. But I definitely appreciate that shout out. I want to build up the X and we're going to do more and more. I am wearing my, for those looking at the live, I'm wearing my Freedom shirt today because we definitely need to talk about the Colorado, the ruling on the Colorado Supreme Court in the U.S. Supreme Court and the smackdown, the 9-0 smackdown. But, you know, Trump and Super Tuesday, Nikki Haley and the VP pick. What are we doing with this? Where is it going to go? I really feel like Nikki Haley, like Trump says, and I've said it, and we talked about last week, you know, doesn't know what to do, does not know how to get out, doesn't know how to step out cleanly and take the L. I don't think she's ever been defeated in an election before. And, you know, I mean, unless this is some kind of audition for, I don't know what, you know, the board of Boeing, Disney, MSNBC. I mean, you fill in the blank. Like, I don't know how this is ever going to help Nikki Haley. The different reports out there are that she wants to have a continuing political career, but I don't see where or how that's going to work on the Republican side. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And like I said, some donors are starting to push her to get. And in fact, speaking of that, I think Club for Growth and other donors are starting to back Trump now because they understand, you know, much like Ben Shapiro and some others, that if you don't do a 180 on Trump, you know, I mean, again, Francis Suarez, Mayor Suarez in Miami, you're on the outside looking in. How fast do you think this Haley campaign winds down, Paul? And what does the exit look like? We did talk a little bit about it, but I mean, I think we need to really I think Super Tuesday is going to be a wipeout for her. And then I think it looks I think the race already looks different now for Nikki Haley, but I think it looks really, really different tomorrow night, Tuesday night, and let alone Wednesday.
Look, if I were her, I'd be getting out tomorrow, unless there's shocking results that nobody sees coming. She's going to be down so many delegates. And Trump is just on the verge of clinching things. I mean, how much humiliation do you want to deal with? I mean, at some point, you can't give victory speeches when you lose. I mean, it just
how crazy
at some point becomes kind of absurd. So I personally would be looking to get out tomorrow. We'll see if those rumors could be true or not. And there's people who think they aren't true. So I don't know. I mean, she's been running her own kind of thing that's just different than most campaigns we've ever seen. And who knows where? I don't know where she's going to go with it. But I know personally what I would do, which would be to get out.
Well, here's what's really weird, and here's what's really, I don't know if it's scary, but I mean, I'm politically scary. How about that? About this whole thing is that she had a pledge along with a lot of other candidates to basically support the Republican nominee. And she said that she was going to do that. Now all of a sudden, oh well, it's a different RNC now. Ronna Romney McDaniel's not there anymore and stuff like that. So it seems like she's walking back off of that. And if I'm going to play devil's advocate for just a second here on Newstalk 1040 AM and the John D. Villarreal radio show here and live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and X, I mean, are the people in the Nikki Haley campaign saying something like this?
Well, Paul, the voters say that they don't like Trump and they don't like Biden. They want a third choice, a different choice, and I'm that choice. I was in the UN and I was a governor, and I'm not like the meanie Trump, and I'm not like Biden, and I can do something in the middle. If you look at the suburban moms and you look at the independents and all the people that have big money and the donors and stuff like that, I can speak to them, and in a fictional world of La La Land, I might actually win, and I'm staying in. Do you think that has...
Oh, geez, I forgot the button. Do you think that has any relevancy there? I mean, I think that's what she's trying to say, something like that. How crazy is that? I don't think that the problem of it is this is what I'm trying to say. I think this campaign is delusional. And it's being led by Nikki Haley. I don't know if she understands where to get the eject button. What do you think about that, Paul?
It is delusional. And when you were talking, there, that was great. I love that.
Thank you.
The voice thing. When you were talking there, it reminded me actually of Clay Travis talking about how Nikki's could supposedly target the suburban moms. I mean, who has a connection with Nikki Haley? And coming back to Clay Travis
wait. You want to know who's got a connection with Nikki Haley, in my opinion, politically?
Yeah. I mean, crickets. Seriously, I don't. Again, she came on so late to the scene in this primary of being relevant. It's like there's no emotional attachment to her. Except, look, there are never Trumpers and all, but okay, they're not attached to her. But coming back to Clay Travis, who has some of the, in my opinion, just some of the most, I don't know, poor political instincts or something. He actually was talking today, because I only know this because somebody told me on one of my people told me on X. He was talking about having Greg Abbott as the VP.
Oh my gosh!
Well, I guess because of the immigration issue. It's like, are you really? I respect and I like Greg Abbott. Greg Abbott's not going to be the VP.
And you know what? And I don't want to be a punk, and this is going to get me in all kinds of trouble. But I still have to say it. I mean, I knew people connected to the Rush Limbaugh show, the great Rush Limbaugh. And I remember listening to Rush ever since '88 and stuff like that, all the way back to Sacramento in those days, KFBKF, that, if I remember correctly. I can't remember exactly, but when I used to go to undergrad at Berkeley and stuff like that, and I met the great Bro Snurley, real life named James Golden and everything. We were talking different, multiple times. And I just feel like Clay and Buck, I mean, nobody was ever going to fill those shoes, but man, just not filling those shoes. Really, really not filling those shoes, in my opinion, at this time. And anyway, we'll talk more about that. I got to wind this segment down right here. But here's the good news, players. I mean, if you're watching live, you got 3 more segments to go. And well, actually, for all of it, live and also on the radio, because this is going to be the first segment, and so we're going to keep rolling right here. There's so much to talk about here. You're listening to the John D. Villarreal radio show here on Newstalk 1040 AM, live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X. More to talk about. We appreciate Windmill and the people Windmill like that as well. Lots more to talk about in the next segment. We will hit on this Colorado Supreme Court ruling at the U.S. Supreme Court. Absolutely earth-shaking. More on that. We'll be back in 6 minutes, players. Stay right there. Hey, everybody. I'm with the looking live. We're going to take maybe like a 1 or 2 minute break right here. I'm going to try to get a little something, maybe some water, anything for my voice. And we'll be right back, and we'll start it up again. And we're going to talk about the U.S. Supreme Court. Their big ruling today. Huge, huge news. We're going to talk about that. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Okay, what's going on, man? Hey, everybody, John D. Villarreal here, the John D. Villarreal radio show on Newstalk 1040 AM, live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and X. And this is a rebroadcast here. I'm doing it live right now on Monday, March the 4th right here. And we're joined by Paul at Villarreal, and we're talking about all kinds of stuff. And some of our friends here from X are jumping in as well, Windmill. Appreciate that, like the last segment. We have to talk about this Colorado ruling. This Colorado Supreme Court ruling, the U.S. Supreme Court ruling on the Colorado Supreme Court ruling that took Trump off the ballot. This just came down today. It was really, really big news. It is big news. It's huge news. And it was a 9-0 ruling, players. This was a blowout. This wasn't even close. And you have, as some people said out there, liberals, quote unquote, melting down. They can't handle it. All this lawfare, all these narratives are all crumbling left, right, and center on President Trump. And, Dana Bash says, this might not be a good day for America. I mean, Paul will have the exact quotes and stuff. I don't want to misquote at all. But Dana Bash that was a weird commentary on CNN for a news program. I mean, just very weird. Keith Olbermann's talking about dissolving the Supreme Court. We've heard other people talking about, 6 Republicans in robes. I mean, it's getting crazy. Paul, talk about the news. What happened with the Colorado Supreme Court? That case in the Colorado ruling in the U.S. Supreme Court. And when you've got, Justice Jackson, Justice Sotomayor, Justice Kagan voting 9-0 with the majority, I mean, that is a shutout. And what they're basically saying is these states can't play games with federal elections. The whole thing was crazy. I mean, because especially in this hyper-partisan atmosphere, when you've got Republicans and a lot of people moving from California to Florida, moving from New York to Florida, Texas, these other places, I mean, you could see, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. You could see the people, saying, oh, well, Biden, the Biden and Obama administration, well, they spied on Trump. They spied on Trump and the Russia collusion hoax, that was a hoax. And you could see this spiraling very quickly out of control, as you did. Okay, you had Colorado doing one thing, Maine doing something else, another state was trying to get in the mix. I mean, it would have been absolutely craziness for the two main parties. You have the person that, as of probably maybe even tomorrow, or certainly is the presumptive nominee right now, but maybe the official nominee here very shortly. I mean, obviously the conventions, the main official, but in terms of delegates, you just can't have that. You just can't have that. I mean, this was absolutely, and someone else went through this too, and I can't remember who it was. It was a post on, I think, of all places, TikTok or something like that. I forget who had this. It was actually it was in an article. It was in a Substack article, and it was very well done, actually, very well done podcast and stuff. It almost sounded like, one of these like really well done podcasts, an NPR type of thing, or whatever. And it was just, this dude went through like everything they've done on Trump. And we all know it, but it's craziness. It's super insane. But Paul, let's stay focused on this right now. Talk to me about the Supreme Court ruling 9-0, total smackdown. Give us the facts.
Okay, so what happened was there were 3 different groups of people commenting on this, even though it was a 9-0 ruling. Basically, what everybody affirmed was that this is a federal matter, not something for the states to decide. So all 9 justices agreed with that. And what you had 5 justices who, in the majority...
Sorry, real quick. Let me just say this. To me, that's so super obvious, dude. Now, obviously, I studied constitutional law under Professor John Yoo, a constitutional law expert out there at UC Berkeley. But I mean, it's the president of the United States. That's as federal of an election as you're going to get. That is the most federal election. This is not hard to understand, number one. Okay. And it's so insane. And then I'm so sick of people on TV that are trying to play lawyers and stuff like that, are second guessing. These people are second guessing the U.S. Supreme Court. I mean, this just shows how out of control we are right now. Like where the insanity level, the anything, the ends justify the means, almost like that. I just want to throw that in there. Paul, go ahead, continue.
So, okay. So again, all 9 justices affirmed this is a federal matter, not a state matter, meaning the states can't make the decisions on this when it involves a federal election or a candidate for a federal election. Basically, the federal government has to deal with this. And again, in the 14th Amendment, Article 3, and I believe Article 3 is where it says, disqualify for an insurrection. And Article 5 says that the way you handle this is Congress, I believe that Congress passes legislation. So this is, from a legal perspective, in my opinion, as a non-lawyer, I think this is a pretty simple and cut and dry issue. And that's essentially what 5 of the 9 justices ruled. They ruled, yes, like everybody, the other 4, this is a federal issue. And if you're going to resolve it, the way that you resolve this matter is you make legislation to deal with it. And they pointed out there's already legislation for it. There's existing like stuff from like the 1870s about this. And there's an updated on the books, like modern version of the insurrection, like a federal crime statute that's there. Why hasn't that been used? Well, maybe because it doesn't apply to President Trump, basically. But essentially what they said then is, if you're going to handle this matter, it has to be done through the Congress, which is what the Constitution says, and it has to be done by creating a law to deal with it. And then so if you want to know if somebody can be disqualified under the 14th Amendment, you make a law and you basically try them under the law. And then you know if they can be disqualified or not. That's what 5 of the justices said. Amy Coney Barrett, another conservative justice, essentially said, if I remember it correctly, okay, I agree with you. It's a federal issue, not a state issue, but I don't know if I completely am with you in terms of like how you resolve this. Like maybe she thinks it's more than just creating legislation. I'm not sure. She didn't spell it out. She just basically kind of gave the impression that she might not agree that that's the only way to deal with it. The 3 liberal justices, what they essentially said was, yes, it's a federal issue, not a state issue. However, we don't agree with the 5 people in the majority who wrote the majority opinion that the only way to deal with this is by creating legislation. In other words, maybe there are other remedies. One of the things that's been brought up recently with Trump is, hey, well, what if he wins and Congress doesn't certify him because they think maybe maybe it was an insurrection. So, in other words, they want more potential enforcement mechanisms, whereas the majority of the opinion was, no, there's one enforcement mechanism, and that is creating a law. And so, look, this was a total victory for Trump, not just in the 9-0, but in the sense that they essentially took away, you're probably not going to do this, not certify the election, and you can't do that, and you can't do this, essentially what they're saying, in my opinion. And look, I mean, all you have to do is see some of the responses afterwards to see that, the left and some of the media who's sympathetic to the left, they weren't happy. So that's basically what went down. And I mean, if you're Trump, you couldn't really have won any bigger. And I know on the right, they're like, oh my gosh, what about Amy Coney Barrett? And what about this? And now Congress can go make a law now. And Jamie Raskin and some other Democrats are talking about they're going to make a law. Well, guess what? You already have laws. And the Supreme Court basically mentioned too, if you make a law, it has to be fair. It has to match the penalty. It has to match the transgression or whatever. In other words, you're not making any wide sweeping laws here. And by the way, you already have a couple laws on the books. So without saying it, my takeaway from all this was, yeah, I don't see how you're going to be able to go back and do something after the fact now to try to, get Trump on this, because you already had an impeachment trial. You already have laws on the books that you haven't charged him under. In my opinion, the way I looked at it was essentially, we're done here. At least with the makeup of the court as it is, majority is saying, yeah, that's about it. That's how I looked at it.
Okay, real good. I mean, just thinking this through as you're talking, and I have to do definitely some deeper reflection on that and some research and everything like that. But I mean, if you have a sitting president, impeachment is your method, and they balked on that. He got acquitted twice. Okay, so that's done. Okay, so now can you say, well, you can make a law barring someone else from running under the 14th Amendment? I don't know. Windmill actually has some props for you right there, Paul, and an excellent summary right there. This may not all show up here. It says that was helpful on screen. That was helpful. I wondered where the left-leaning justices had differed. And, I think that under the 14th Amendment, can you make a law? Will that stand up? That's dubious to me as well. That's dubious to me because at the end, and here's why. Actually, let me explain that. What you're basically doing, and it's basic, is you're taking the choice away from the voters. You are taking the choice away from the will of the voters. Like that goes against everything in the Constitution. That goes away from what we're trying to do with America and this great experiment. And now, as Reagan would say, the shining city on the hill. The voters are in charge. The voters have to be in charge. Okay? Now you can't have mob rule and things like that. It's not a pure democracy. We have a representative republic. That's why you have a Supreme Court, because you can't say, hey, the voters in this place are going to put some kind of discriminatory or an unequal law or different things, whether it's on housing or fill in the blank, right? So it's not pure democracy, but writ large over a long period of time, you have to have the voters in charge. I really think, just thinking this through, you probably have to have another constitutional amendment, which would make sense. Because if you're going to have something as monumental as this, that, hey, if you did X, Y, what if people said, hey, you know what? Hunter Biden or President Biden, we think that, there's a lot of funny things here. What if they prove down the line that maybe there was some, again, I'm not alleging anything. I'm just saying hypothetically, but that, people want, maybe the Republicans make a bribery charge against President Biden and stuff like that. I mean, who knows where this whole investigation thing goes and whatnot, or they drum up, a documents charge. And I mean, like, a lot of other people, even Buck Sexton, who used to be, I think, with the CIA, says, you can get, anybody almost, it's like indicting a ham sandwich on document charges, because, there's so many documents out there and people forget, and so many things are classified, blah, blah. I mean, I think they talked about how many documents are classified. It's like 1 trillion documents. It was something crazy. It was a huge, huge, huge number. I don't know how much, but a lot. And you just can't have that weaponization. So I think if you think that something is so crazy that someone who particularly already was president cannot run again, it's got to be a constitutional amendment. You need 3/4 of the states, whatever. I got to brush up on my constitution, but a supermajority in the Congress, and then a supermajority of the states that have to go for that, which you're not going to get, because you shouldn't get it, because this is insane. Let the voters decide. Let the voters decide. There would have to be something so psychotic as to why, you shouldn't. I mean, case in point, and people say that at some point they should change this, right? That a foreign-born person cannot run for vice president, cannot run for president. That's in the Constitution. They talked about that with, Governor Schwarzenegger, right? Now, that hasn't been changed because it's super hard to change. Now, you may say, well, that's right or that's wrong or whatever that it is. And I think that's probably something that should be changed, quite frankly, at this time. And I don't know that I don't think it ever made sense. But at that time, it was a different time and they were trying to do, and I'm not excusing it, but that's actually in the Constitution. And they haven't changed that. But it goes to a somewhat similar type of thing, which is like, hey, we need someone that I don't know what it is. I don't know what the thinking is. Is it someone that is? I don't even want to go there. I don't want to potentially misspeak there. But I mean, that's in the Constitution, and I don't think that ever should have been in the Constitution. But there was things that were, as we know, that were in the Constitution that shouldn't have been in the Constitution, and they had to get changed, but they got changed through constitutional amendments. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. And now that I hear you explain that, Paul, I actually feel a little bit better about it in that it's like, okay, this absolutely can't work. Colorado, you can't have states and municipalities like freewheeling and doing whatever they want in terms of a federal election. You want to talk about interfering in an election? Hello, in my opinion, and I guess potentially the Supreme Court's opinion, if I'm interpreting that right, my opinion. But if you're ever going to do anything, okay, you do a law underneath the 14th Amendment, and then that will get litigated to the Supreme Court, and we'll see if that is constitutional or not. I don't think it is. I think it's very dubious. I think you need a constitutional amendment. I think you've got a constitutional amendment and you've got impeachment. I think those are the two methods. Trying to all the not certified electors, what are they blaming Trump for? This is insane. And someone said this is true. They had to adopt Trump's arguments to actually, try to do this type of stuff. This is how insane it's gotten, Paul. Your comments on this?
Yeah, I think that's very well said. And look, I believe that that's what the majority kind of felt. You know what? It reminds me of the Nikki Haley thing. You said she doesn't know how to get out. Well, the Democrats don't know how to let go of this issue. And what the Supreme Court basically today told them was, yeah, you need to let go of this issue. And what I explained to people in ex post was, look, this is over. Now, the Supreme Court can't come out and say straight out that it's over, but for all intents and purposes, it's over, which is exactly what you're saying. Even if you went and tried to make law, you have potential double jeopardy stuff. You have potential ex post facto concerns. You just, functionally, this is done. And that's what I think the Supreme Court basically stated today. And of course, for the left who wants to rally their base and for the media that might not be supportive of Trump winning, they're not going to tell you that. But some of them, to be fair, a couple of the better articles I've seen did pretty much say that. There's no way that this is practically going to occur. In the same way that you said, there is no way that you are practically going to do a constitutional amendment about this. Let's be honest. This was done regarding the Civil War. I mean, this was a moment in time, a long time ago. That's why it was created. We're not in that moment any longer.
We're not in that moment any longer. And the reason why the Democrats can't, the hard leftists can't let go of this issue is because everything they've been talking about, Russia collusion and they're trying to gin that up again and threat to democracy and all that type of stuff. They are doing the things they're accusing the Republicans of doing. Okay. They have no moral high ground at all. It's any means necessary. And it's just so insane. And we'll maybe talk about this, the hot mic issue between Majority Leader Senator Schumer and President Biden on the border. That basically just keep it rolling. We'll just blame Republicans. I'm a pro. I'll figure it out. And that's what was allegedly said. And Biden's like, I don't know, I'm getting heat out of even Mike Tyson. I'm getting heat on this stuff like that. It's like, one of my big donors. I mean, dude, it's like, what are we doing, dude? It's so insane. And that's what that thing on that. I'll have to find this here in a second. Was basically saying that it's so crazy that it's just been nonstop against Trump. It's been nonstop against Trump, and it's just like, dude, you know, and like they say, it was got like Godzilla. I mean, you just are making him stronger because people, this is what I said before, it's not never Trump, it's only Trump. Because people, someone else said this, obviously, if they don't want him so bad, then that's why I want to vote for him. If the swamp hates him so bad, that's why we need to vote for him. And then you've got Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban saying the only serious chance for peace is a Trump win. I mean, this whole situation, the world's falling apart to some degree. And there's serious things out there. And so I just think that they have to try to pull this together because they've been telling their audiences out there for so long. And Trump and Cat Williams again, and we have got about 4 minutes left here. Went on Joe Rogan recently. He already had explosive comments on, and we talk about that on Club Shay Shay. And he went on Joe Rogan, and he was talking about that. Hollywood and the media are not for entertainment; they are for propaganda, and they can't let go of this issue because it's central to their propaganda, Paul. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think, look, it's always been the case that narratives can kind of control the discussion or shape the image of things. I think that's never been more the case than it is now. I think that particularly the left is the current modern left is very much reliant on narratives. And somebody said this today, and I completely agree with this. The left seems just so afraid of facing Trump straight up on issues without all of these crutches, without Russia and J6 and all these other things. They can't just go head to head straight up. And so they're always kind of relying on all these different gimmicks. And as you said, look, there's a cumulative effect. There's kind of, the 1,000 paper cuts. On the other hand, at some point, people just stop listening. They just tune it out. And I know I've mentioned this before on the show, the concept of Clinton scandal fatigue, which was, in some respects, there's a couple of different meanings to that. But one of the meanings was, if you have 50 scandals and then you suddenly have 51, nobody cares because they're already burnt out on the first 50. I think that's what you're starting to see with Trump, which is just there's nothing more to intake with this. You've already said everything, done everything, charged them 100 times. At some point, people just aren't paying attention anymore. And they want to think, like I said, and I've said this on X, and I think I've told it to you off air. Look, I went to an appointment recently here in central Pennsylvania. I took the bus, and we let a man off at a food bank. And there were about 50 people waiting outside of the food bank. And then I read a story from the Associated Press about Eastern Pennsylvania, and apparently their food bank usage is up, and people are having a tough time. And Pennsylvania, I guess, last year had the most year-over-year inflation of any state. When you have people struggling to make ends meet or going to food banks, they don't care about lawfare. They don't care about preserving democracy. They care about the money in their pocket, how much things cost. And I just think, that there's a disconnect going on from some of the left with those issues.
No doubt about it. There's a huge disconnect. And I think the people definitely, look, people are smart. They understand that you've tried, an impeachment, 1 impeachment, 2 impeachments. You tried the Russia collusion hoax. You spied on the campaign. You're trying, you have this insane volume of charges. All these things are falling apart. We may even talk about this. James O'Keefe going undercover. And I think going to an Equinox gym with Judge Goron, and I don't know if that was the most flattering footage of Judge Goron, interacting with some of the other members there, in my opinion, and stuff like that. And I'm not saying I'm endorsing anything that undercover footage or anything like that. I mean, obviously James O'Keefe, I'm not, is doing some journalistic work there, but. Look, I can't address this issue. We'll have to talk about next segment here a little bit. We'll touch on that. But the point of it is they're doing all this stuff to go after Trump, And people are just saying this is way too much. This is way too much. Eighth Amendment, everything like that. And Trump brought that up. Lots more to talk about. So much more to talk about here. Supreme Court smocks it down 9-0. Trump will be on the ballot in all 50 states. So much more to talk about. You're listening to John D. Villarreal Show here on Newstalk 1040 AM, live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X. Be right back. Hey, everybody, you're listening to John D. Villarreal Radio Show here on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X, and live on Newstalk 1040. Well, actually, let me revise and extend that. We're not live. This is a replay on Newstalk 1040 AM. This is the John D. Villarreal Radio Show on Newstalk 1040 AM. It is live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X right now. Streaming, actually, this is March 4th at night. We had there's some kind of sickness going on. I'm a little sick. My voice is a little bit off, but some of our team members there were feeling a little bit under the weather. Not a problem. So this is going to be replayed this week, and we are going live right now. There's so much to talk about on the live stream here on the internet and being replayed on Newstalk 1040 AM all over the greater Tampa area. I hope you guys are having people out there are having a great time in the greater Newstalk 1040 area, whether it's Sarasota where I'm at, downtown St. Pete, Sarasota, Tampa. Of course, we have talked about Sarasota, Bradenton, Brandon, Longboat Key, and Wesley Chapel, Clearwater, everywhere. Okay. We talked about, we're going to go, for the live folks, we're going 5 segments actually, because the first one, wasn't broadcasting right, but, it's the same show on the air on Newstalk 1040. But we were talking about Nikki Haley and the Trump potential VP picks. We'll probably cover that again here at some point, but there's just so much news going on right now. We just talked about the Colorado Supreme Court decision. And we touched on a little bit of this, what some people would say, the lawfare and everything like that. And there was this undercover thing with James O'Keefe. And I will say that we are sponsored by the Doherty Auto Group and Sarasota Subaru, Maserati and Alfa Romeo of Sarasota. And we definitely appreciate them. We appreciate the whole team over there. Myself, Tim Reher, Tony G, all the rest of them doing a great job. Bill K and Mark Jones, everybody else like that, Marcus, Luca, everybody. We're having a fun time. And listen, you want a nice Subaru, you come on down, something nice, reliable, it's a cool car, in my opinion. I'm not alleging anything. I'm not, but I mean, I think a lot of people love the Subaru name. We just did some cool charity stuff for Subaru, Sarasota Subaru. We went out to Nathan Betterson Park. We're going to have that up for the Southeastern guide dog event. That was an amazing event. So many people out there, hundreds of people out there. I'm going to have a great video on that. We also did something with Operation Warm and the Safe Children Foundation, a coalition, I believe. Sorry, I hope I got that right. Just put that video up with their VP of communications. That was fantastic, delivering some coats to some kids that need that and stuff like that. And that is a commitment that Sarasota Subaru does. And also that's a big thing from Subaru of America. But also let's talk about this. The new Gran, the GT, Gran Turismo, the new Grand convertible. Let me say hold on, let me get this right. I'm going to get this a little bit wrong. So let me try to get this right. Brand new, the convertible was announced by Maserati. The new convertible was announced by Maserati. Can't get it yet. But I mean, it's just been announced. It looks absolutely gorgeous. It's going to be in a Trofeo. Okay, that's all you can get it. The Grand Cabrio. There we go. Maserati Grand Cabrio. This thing is just so insane. This is so insane. It just looks unbelievable. It looks unbelievable. And this is a Grand Cabrio right here. It just got announced. It's going to be it's going to use the Nettuno engine. spin tune it, 3-liter, twin turbo, 542 horsepower. Okay. Unbelievable. It just looks like so ridiculous. Top goes up and down in 14 seconds, players. That's very, very quick. 0 to 60, I think, is 3.6 seconds. I'll have to double confirm that. The blue looks amazing. It looks so, so nice. This is something I think that is really, really going to be cool. So come on over and talk about that. MC20 just sold an MC20 recently. There's a lot of different vehicles over there. You can come on and check out Alfa Romeo Tonale. I think people are getting hip to the Tonale. We've been moving some of those. A plug-in hybrid. How about that? Maybe save some fuel. Maybe something for that can feel. You have that. You have 1 foot in the electric world, 1 foot in the ICE world. That's kind of cool right there. A lot of things to talk about. Come on and see us in South Tamiami, 7641 South Tamiami Boulevard, right there, Highway 41, if you will, in South Sarasota, very close to Costco. It's very easy. You get on ice if you're local, you know where it is. If you're coming from either south or north, get on I-75, get off on Clark Road, and come on down and on South Sarasota, South Tamiami, and come on and see us over there. Okay, so that's very, very cool. Okay, now. Let's get back to this, okay? And what this is James O'Keefe went undercover. A lot of people are getting sick of this whole, some people say, lawfare against President Trump. James O'Keefe went undercover, and he went to go see where Judge Engoron was working out. And in fact, James O'Keefe encountered a fan there, someone that recognized him, did a little selfie with him. And listen, I don't like the gotcha journalism stuff. And I think that people are entitled to their privacy and everything like that. This is definitely someone that's put themselves front and center in national news and had this just, seemingly unprecedented, or certainly this very large ruling against President Trump. And along with Attorney General Letitia James over there. Paul, did you see this undercover work by O'Keefe? And what do you make of it with Judge Engoron?
I am aware of it. I know the fallout from it. I did not see the actual clips themselves. Look, I'll just say this about James O'Keefe. He's been doing this a long time. And look, I know what you're saying about kind of the gotcha, the surreptitious type of thing. But I do know that James O'Keefe is very scrupulous about the legality of things. In other words, he knows what he can and cannot do. And to my understanding, he's pretty good.
Yeah, we're not alleging that anyone broke any laws or James doing anything wrong. We're not alleging that. I'm just talking about as a viewer, maybe the sort of moral factor, if you will, or whatever you want to call it. But that being said, there's a lot of people that are pronouncing, Trump is moral, passing moral judgment on President Trump. And here in one of there really wasn't much to see, honestly. There's some little exchange. It was no big deal. But at some point, Engoron, it seems to be talking to this younger woman, and she kind of puts her hand up and kind of seems like backing him off. I don't know. There wasn't really audio there. It's just an interpretation. Who knows? I mean, maybe I'm misreading that. I'm not alleging anything, Judge Engoron or anything. I'm just, and you're at this point, I think you're a public figure as well. But I mean, it just, maybe I'm misinterpreting that. Was my personal opinion. That's why I really am very uncomfortable with things. I really don't know what we learned. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, if I had someone fall on, if a camera's following any of us around 24/7, I mean, we're not always gonna, be at our best. I mean, people have ups and people have downs and different things like that. And it's also hard to really know what the context is. I mean, who knows? Maybe she was a Republican and she didn't loves President. Nobody knows, right? And that's why that's where I'm very, very uncomfortable with that kind of thing. But what are people, you know what I'm saying, Paul, number one, and number two, what are people saying about it?
Well, okay, a couple things. Number one, there was a separate report that came out, and I can't vouch for this. I don't know the truth or falsehood of any of this, but there was a separate report that came out allegedly about Judge Engoron and potential questions about him regarding another case or the people involved in another case. You can go look that up for yourself. I'm not going to get into all the details, but like you said, Trump has been judged in the public eye, and now I think there's starting to be some scrutiny about Judge Engoron himself. Now, as far as how people are reacting and so forth.
Oh, hold on. Let me just
O'Keefe,
step in here very, very quick to make this point. Right. We're not saying anything. Nobody's perfect. Everybody deserves a private life and all that. But there's been just this separately, this insane volume, this tsunami, avalanche, whatever you want to call it, of potential lawfare against Trump. And even people in our own family. Oh, he's guilty. He's guilty of what? Oh, he's just guilty. It's like get Trump no matter what, almost. Okay. And it's like, if you're going to judge Trump, who are the people judging Trump? Right? We're having this, these reports from so long ago when people can't say what day it happened or when it happened, but this happened and stuff. And the evidence is, I don't know. I mean, you judge for yourself. Okay. And people are going civil routes instead of criminal routes because maybe you can't prove the criminal stuff, or maybe statute of limitations, or we're going to change the statute of limitations and then we're going to change it back just for. I mean, it's just looking so crazy, and almost all these decisions are coming out of Democrat only spots. You've got people that are donated Democrats, or all Democrat appointed judges, or we're going to do everything in the DC grand jury, and then we're going to shove it into Florida. I mean, it just looks very, very partisan, Paul. And I think what O'Keefe is doing is saying, in my opinion, who's watching the watchers. And what kind of people, are these? And you've got people, and here's the thing, that people that criticize on the left, you've got people are saying that the Supreme Court are 6 Republicans in robes. But wait, we can't even examine Judge Engoron with this insane judgment and the gag orders, and Trump can't talk and you can't say anything. And so I just want to put that context on it right here. But all of that being said, I don't know that we learned anything much from this undercover work. No disrespect to James O'Keefe or anything like that. And I am very uncomfortable. Like, I don't know, dude. It's not like, I don't know. I don't know that we need to be following. But anyway, and especially when, look, the same people would, and rightfully so, are saying like, we don't need people protesting outside of the residencies of the U.S. Supreme Court. And I think that's exactly right. Like, I mean, I'm uncomfortable when we start following judges around and things like that, in my opinion. Go ahead, Paul. But what is the reaction out there?
Yeah, so some of the reaction I've seen, the biggest reaction that I've seen personally was that I guess the gym or that one particular location banned O'Keefe from going back to the location, and so of course he was not happy with that, and was kind of like following up with that, and there was a lot of reaction to that. Like, there was a lot of reaction like, hey, what are you guys doing? Why do you do this? And apparently, like, the front office or whatever was getting a bunch of phone calls about this. So that was where I personally saw the most reaction on all of this, was, why are you guys trying to bar James O'Keefe if he didn't do anything, if he was doing things by the book? So that's where I saw most of the reaction personally.
Well, yeah, and I don't want to stay too much long on this topic. We have a bunch of other stuff to talk about, but it was, it's important. First of all, I don't think they should ban O'Keefe. I mean, I think it's ridiculous. There's a separate issue, and I don't think it's for today because, so many other things to talk about. But there's been this big thing with filming in gyms and gym culture and people, internet influencers like Joey Swole and stuff like that, and is now the arbiters of what is and what isn't appropriate, to do in terms of filming in a gym. And a lot of people say there shouldn't be any cameras in a gym. This is, dude. I was a 4-time national champion in powerlifting and stuff like that, in elite, in my opinion, and elite, obviously elite athlete and stuff like that, third in the world. dude, I wish I could have filmed more in the gyms for myself, and then I don't care about anyone else, honestly, but just for my own things. And you look at technique, best lifts, stuff like that. There's all kinds of great lifts that I wish I would have gotten before I had a lot of the cameras were widespread and stuff like that. The gym culture used to be so much different, dude. I mean, look at Arnold, look at pumping iron, dude. I mean, that was just a normal thing. Like, dude, it's just like, I don't, all these little clout traps or something like that. Like, I mean, people trying to catch other people and this and that, and I can't believe this, dude. And I don't know, like, it's gotten to a crazy level. Now, I don't think you should be trying to make people, I don't know, look bad and setting people up, and that's a different, I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, I can't judge everything right here, but I mean, it's a public place. Like, yeah, it's a private, establishment, but it's still a public space. Okay. The mall is ostensibly a private establishment, but it's still a public place. Like, you can't, like, I don't want to get into every little detail here, but you don't have a right to privacy in a public place like that. Like, you have to have the doors open. There's just different things, right? There's different things that go into it. And, and I just feel like, and I'm not giving legal advice, not licensed in Florida, blah, blah, blah. And so, this idea that, like, we can't film in gyms anymore, unless we want to film in gyms. And, like, it just, what I hate about it is it's ruined gym culture. There's a lot of people, I mean, like, how many people love to see, like, Larry Wheels lift or Brian Shaw or, Eddie Hall, like that's a, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's a constant thing. Or how much can you bench? Or is this a real good bench press? Or James Maddox, hey, he broke the world record in a gym lift, and then, different things like that. Right. So that it's like, it's ruining gym culture, number one. And number two, I feel like, it instantly becomes this, like everything else, this two-tier justice system. Like, we'll go after the people that we want to go after, but the other people are okay. And we'll talk about maybe some of that with the whole thing, this Gemini AI. We have so much to talk about there. And that's what I hate about that type of stuff. So no, they shouldn't be. I don't think we learned anything from this tape. I mean, I think it's interesting. I mean, it's nothing groundbreaking on O'Keefe's part, but I don't think you should, and I'm a little uncomfortable with the methods, I guess, but I definitely don't think you should be banning O'Keefe. That's kind of where I come out on it. And what do you think, Paul? Any final comments?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. And I mean, certainly as you mentioned, I mean, just as a separate topic, the gym culture is completely different than when we were coming up. And yeah, I mean, back in the day, it was hard to film at all. It seemed like. I mean, I remember how much of stuff we had to go through to just film some of your lifts, and you're a national level competitor. Now everybody films everything, it seems like.
And when it means hard stuff to go through, it just means, like, and technically, like, we didn't have the cameras, and the phones didn't have all the cameras, everything like that. The ubiquitousness of the cameras, it would have been great. It would have had that. And some of my stuff, if you want to look on YouTube, you can still see some of my stuff and some of my lifts up there. And definitely nothing close to my best, but enough to, some of my contests and some of the different things and all that. And so, but it's just like, and listen, different gyms are for different people. If you want to go to and this is always the internet thing, the Planet Fitness, then do that. If that's where you want to go. I think there are some, gyms that are much more low key or more private or different things like that. That's where you want to go to that. But if you're going to, like, a Gold's Gym, a World Gym, a Powerlifting Gym, whatever it is what it is. Like, stop, dude. Like, what are you talking about? And in fact, places like Dubai and others actually recruited top athletes like a Larry Wills, have them in the gym to do the videos of, they do the core sports. They have the big arm wrestlers there. They have these big events and stuff. And it's, it's a global thing, and people like that. So, one size doesn't fit all. If you want to go to a private gym and you don't want to be filmed and everything like that, or you're worried about people looking at you or whatever like that, then that's fine. Go work out in a private gym or do your private thing, because we're seeing it flipped around now. If you want to film yourself, then you got to go to a private gym we got people like I mean, this is different. There's superstars and stuff like that, but you've got like I'm blanking for Celtic Warrior from WWE. Celtic Warrior workout. Sheamus, yeah, Sheamus. And you've got like, Cena and Rock and other people like that. They're putting their workouts up there and stuff. And now, when you're talking about a worldwide super celebrity like The Rock, okay, well, maybe it's hard to kind of to go to a public gym all the time, stuff like that. But I memean, it's very, very common. You see bodybuilders doing that. You see Jay Cutler, filming stuff in the gym, Big Boy. There's so many different people. Bradley Martin and stuff like, dude, we don't want to get to a place like the people that like myself that have, I mean, not nearly what I was, but have lived in their gyms all the time, their whole life. I mean, here in the greater Tampa area, Newstalk 1040, we've got a lot of professional wrestlers. Like Hulk Hogan's over there in that Clearwater area, I believe. We got a lot of people down here. Eric Bruder, I can't remember Eric B. His last name. I can't pronounce it exactly right. I have to see it. If I saw it, I could pronounce it. So many people here. Batista is in the Tampa area. Just tons and tons of people in the wrestling stuff. They're filming themselves in gyms. Like we don't want if you don't want to go to a gym that doesn't want filming, there's gyms out there that are private and stuff like that. If you don't want to film, but this is what's so crazy about it. You can't film someone and filming yourself. In other words, you're bringing your own camera, and then you're mad about someone else filming or something. I'm getting a little bit maybe too askew here, but it just gets so insane. Like there was this thing where there was, and I think there was a military service member or something like that, and I think he was doing something for his wife or something. I can't remember what, and there was someone filming themselves working, and they thought that they were creeping or something, and it's like, dude. You're filming yourself and filming him, and then you're mad about him potentially, allegedly filming you, which he wasn't even doing. Like, just stop. There's just too much of this stuff going on. Like to me, it's like it's especially if you're a competitor or an athlete or an influencer or a wrestler, or there's a whole swath of people that might want to film themselves in gyms. It's totally fine. It's completely fine. If I get a gym, there'll be cameras allowed in the gym. I can believe you that, number one. And but if you don't want that, then go to a gym that doesn't have that. Then there's different places to go. Again, go to a Planet Fitness. I'm glad there's a Planet Fitness out there, but I don't want every gym to be a Planet Fitness. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of videos of people going to Planet Fitness. And so anyway, Paul, I hope I'm not getting too askew on this, but do you understand what I'm saying, Paul?
Yeah, I do. I mean, and it's just, look, it's a, we took an issue that was specific to kind of Trump and all political stuff, and then it's just there's a larger cultural issue, and I think that's what you're touching on here.
Well, yeah, there's a larger, and this is what I'm saying. Like things have gotten so crazy, and when it shows through this issue, and the reason I want to bring it up to the Newstalk 1040 audience, everything has been politicized, and everything's a double standard. It's okay when we do it. We're gonna film the creeps. We're going to film, we're going to show, but hey, you can't film yourself working out. We can't film yourself with muscles. You can't, film yourself doing whatever. And I think some would say, and I'm not saying I'm saying, maybe a pearly things or something like that. Some would say this is a larger attack on masculinity and a larger attack on physical fitness and health and all this type of thing. And an attempt to kind of just, how do I want to say this? I want to be careful. Look, I think the left has always disliked, that kind of gym culture and stuff like that. I mean, how many people on the left were fans of Schwarzenegger or Stallone or, whatever, fill in the blank there, dude. And it's like, so I don't know. Leave gym culture alone, dude. You want to I don't know. It's weird. But that now to me, it's like, okay, there's a big difference on this O'Keefe thing, huge difference between filming yourself doing whatever or having a camera out there, in broad daylight, like you're filming like some contest or arm wrestling thing or fill in the blank, right? And they have a lot of influence or Dubai versus hey, we're doing an undercover sting of a judge at the gym. Like, why would you go to a gym? I don't know. And I think O'Keefe was just trying to, as he does, and he's done very, very successfully. I think maybe he was trying to get some kind of exchange. Maybe the judge was going to reveal something, and O'Keefe's done it brilliantly in many different occasions of getting some of these people to say some pretty outrageous things. And that did not happen. So that's why I just didn't feel like there was a lot of value in that clip right there. But like, look, like you said, we definitely took one thing and we went to a different place about the larger culture here, but it is a crazy situation. It just shows how far we've gone, how crazy it is. It reminds me of like when people couldn't go to church or they couldn't protest whatever, but they could protest BLM. That's okay. We could do that. That's fine. You know, and it just, and people are sick of it. And I think that's why so many people are lining up against Trump. People are just tired of all this. They're just tired of the insanity of it all. And it also goes, and maybe we'll talk about this in the next segment. We'll talk about the whole thing with Bud Light and with Disney, where they're ruining Star Wars. And they've ruined the Marvel and stuff like that. And they've just just overly DEI'd and overly feminized and everything. Like it's just gone crazy. You know what I mean? And we love diversity and we love women and everything like that. But I mean, again, like the Google Gemini, I can't do it justice right here. But when you've got George Washington not being historically accurate, there's a problem with that. You're listening to John D. Villarreal radio show here on Newstalk 1040 AM and also live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and X. We'll be right back at you. Okay, hey everybody, I'm back. It's John D. Villarreal here on the John D. Villarreal radio show on Newstalk 1040 AM, live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X. And just a programming note, this is our third segment right here. So this should be, depending on when this is played, the 5 o'clock hour on Newstalk 1040 AM. I think I'm actually doing this on March the 4th. Some of our team members got a little bit sick here. I'm still a little bit sick myself. I'm kind of trying to get a little lemon honey here. Get the voice a little bit better. And so this will be, this is live right now on live stream on the various social platforms, but it will be replayed on this week on Newstalk 1040 AM. Now, lots to talk about here. We were talking about, and Paul's right, we did get a little bit, we're joined by Paul at Villarreal. We did get a little bit swerved into the larger gym culture thing, which I think is important because of the James Keefe undercover thing with Judge Engoron there on the Trump fraud case, I guess, the real estate stuff, and a lot. Listen, we talk about this as well. A lot of people have come out against that in a big way. We talked about the gym culture and Joey Swoll and different things, and Arnold Schwarzenegger and blah blah blah. A lot of people like Kevin O'Leary and Shark Tank's Kevin O'Leary and Grant Cardone have said this is super problematic. Like we're exiting post haste. Like we're not doing any more business in New York real estate stuff. This is going to definitely change the whole thing there. And you know, I don't know. Maybe they say, oh, this is just two people, but those are two huge investors. And how many other people are not saying anything? And that really goes to the larger point here, Paul, whether it's gym culture like we talked about, or the Colorado, Supreme Court's smackdown in the U.S. Supreme Court 9-0 today. Or this case, I mean, it's almost been like anything to get Trump and what damage is being done to the system, what damage is being done to the markets. It kind of reminds me of COVID and the lockdowns. It's like, okay, if you're being, what like that was maybe such an overreaction that has caused huge, it was almost like, okay, yeah, we have to do this, we have to do that. And we had different, the mail-in ballots, we had all this stuff and work from home and we're going to shut down these businesses. And then it's like, oh, it's okay. It's we're back now. And here, and everyone's like, oh no, we're not coming back. And it's destroyed the real estate, the commercial real estate market. And there's been all kinds of other knockoff effects, side effects, if you will. And I guess that's what I'm getting at. Like how much collateral damage has been done by these repeated attempts to get Trump, Paul, in your opinion?
A huge amount. I mean, a massive amount. And I think one of the only positive aspects of it is that so many things that people weren't aware of or just didn't have a full concept of have been exposed by this, whether it's maybe some of the intelligence agencies or the FBI or James Comey or whatever targeting Trump, and maybe people saw more of how some of those agencies possibly do some of their work, whether it's I don't know whether you agree with it or not. And it's also had an effect on, I think, cleaning out a lot of the Republican Party. I mean, we saw that Mitch McConnell stepping down from leadership, and basically, I think the last straw for him was the other day. Um, a reporter asked him if he was going to support Trump or endorse Trump because his number two, John Thune, just did, and basically Mitch said, I don't have any announcement to make." And then within a day or two, he said he was stepping down. And I just think that people don't want the old stuff anymore. They just don't have the same appetite for it any longer. And it's been a real eye opener, I think, for a lot of people into just how things work and kind of who, particularly in the Republican Party, who is with you or who is with the you in the base, and who might be more kind of attuned to like where the donors are or whatever. People that may not have the same priorities that you have. And as I said, Mitch is stepping down today. John Thune said he wants to, run for the leadership position. The other day, John Cornyn said he wants to run. Tonight, President Trump was at Mar-a-Lago with Senator Rick Scott. He, of course, tried to challenge Mitch before. His name's been mentioned as somebody that could come back in the mix with that. So I think that there has been a lot of collateral damage, and it's been, obviously it's been really bad for the people affected. I mean, think of, I mean, just some of the people caught up in this legal maneuverings, whether it's somebody like, various people, various figures that have been caught up in this over the years. And I feel awful for those people. But like I said, it's been an awakening, I think, for the American people, and particularly for many conservatives and kind of average people, about how some of these things actually go down, what takes place. And I think in that regard, it's been a good thing, because I think now people are more kind of they've become desensitized to it and more ready to kind of stand up for what they think is right and oppose what they think is wrong. And in that regard, I think it's good.
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. And I think a lot of people are just tired of people that aren't going to stand up for what they believe in. I mean, people are we talk about conservative ink and stuff like that. Like, we're tired of these platitudes and saying whatever on the campaign trail, and then behind closed doors it's a different thing, and maybe you're about the donors or whatever, or you just don't get it done. And that's why people are saying, like, Mitch McConnell with your little, you got to go, bro. Like, this is it. Like that's what I'm trying to talk about. Whether, I did a little bit of an extended take there on the gym culture and stuff like that, but that's just a part of it. Like, it's too crazy. Okay, it's all of this is just too people want America. What do you think? What do you think MAGA means? Make America great again. Okay, make America great again. Okay, and so and it's not like all these pejoratives and stuff like that or whatever. It's like, no, there needs to be a recognition that the leftists, and they've been trying to do this for a long time, long march to institutions, 60s, everything like that. 60s radicals have taken over, but definitely on hyper speed since President Obama, and some people would say this is Obama's third term and everything like that, have pushed it so far. There's nothing wrong with just saying, like, people didn't want that. You forced it on them, just like you try to force a bunch of other stuff. Just like the nudge, or we're going to get into this in the corporations and stuff like that with Disney and Bud Light, stuff like that. Oh, you're going to tell people what to do, and we're gonna take your stories away from you and stuff like that. There's people that grew up with Spider-Man and Hulk and Captain America and stuff like that, and you're changing everything. You're changing Cinderella. You're changing all of it. Now, I don't have a problem. Like someone said, like there's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and there's not almost only one of them is a dwarf, or whatever the politically correct, term is. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but that's the term of the book, of the fairy tale. So I'm not trying to misspeak or cast aspersions or do anything like that, But I mean, we've gotten to the point now where it's this cultural revolution, and the code book for what's even allowable and won't get you canceled changes almost minute to minute, and people are just sick of that entire environment. It's like Elon Musk. I'm almost a free speech absolutist. Like, if every story is, I do think, like, how do I want to say this? On the one hand, I think it's cool that they have a lot more diversity in some of these things, because that's totally fine, right? On another hand, like if you're doing something like if you're doing a set piece on Henry V or the Vikings and Leif Erikson or something like that, it's only so diverse you're going to be able to get players. Okay, sorry, you know what I mean? Like, and that's the whole thing right there. And when you have like this Marvel thing, and the guy, who he is, Paul, and he did some good work, but I mean, it's gotten a little cheesy on the Thor thing. It's like, yeah, I didn't read the Thor comic books. What? Why do you have this dude directing a Thor movie and he's never read the comic books or doesn't understand the Norse mythology? Like, I just don't get it, dude. What are we doing? So, or Cleopatra, like when you get things, and that leads into Gemini AI and how insane that's gone. People just want reality back. That's all. People want freedom and reality. Freedom and reality. Those are the two main things. Paul, am I wrong in this? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I do agree with you, and I think that's where you're seeing a lot of, the backlash against like the Gemini AI and stuff. Again, look, everybody wants people treated fairly and people to be inclusive and included, but you can't change history. And you can't go back and rewrite things. I mean, that's just, that's just not factually accurate. And there are areas of disagreement. Like, for example, we know who George Washington is. But, okay, there's been some discussion, there's been some talk about, for example, Cleopatra. But there seems to be pretty decent acceptance or consensus of about her. And I mean, again, that doesn't mean there can't be an artistic license or whatever like that, but right, I mean, what's the purpose of trying to change or recreate some of these things? Look, and again, I don't really care personally. Like, for example, like whatever the musical stuff, Hamilton or whatever. You know what? If people like it, or okay, great. But it's like you said, it's when there seems kind of a systematic.
And that was more to me. I took that as more of like a kind of a parody, a different, like it just what you know what I mean. Like that wasn't an attempt to be a historical play there. I mean,
Right.
Yeah,
Correct.
It was a play with historical context,
Right.
or historical themes, but it wasn't really. It was more of a fable, allegory, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I'm probably getting this a little bit wrong about America in general and stuff. And anyway, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I think so. But as you said, I don't think people have. I think people are fine with that type of thing. I mean, I am personally, but like you said, don't. That's different than trying to alter or potentially alter factual instances, or trying to change who George Washington was. I think that's a little bit of a different thing. And also, what's the? I mean, part of what happens with some of this is, well, it's just like I said, is I think that's where a lot of people come down on it is like, look, let's keep history, accurate. And when it comes to things like Marvel stories or again, and characters people grew up with, Star Wars, if you want to introduce new elements, then introduce new elements. You don't have to change the old elements, or you don't have to tear down the old elements. Like in Luke in the new trilogy, you don't have to make him an incompetent whatever. You know what I mean? Why are you doing that? To try to put over another character? You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. And I think that that's kind of the thing that's like you said, kind of a disrespect or disregard for some of the stories and the myth. Like you said, I know you were talking about with Thor. That's Taika Waititi. Look, he's done some good work. I thought Thor Ragnarok was good. Thor Love and Thunder was awful. So I definitely think it works better when you have people who are part of productions and sets where they actually do like the material. They actually do care about the source material, like Jon Favreau, like Star Wars, like Jon Favreau and the Russo brothers, like the Marvel Comics. I think you're going to get a much better outcome when you have people who are invested in that working on it.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think you put it really, really well right there, which is you don't have to trash and totally rewrite and change the original source material to add new source material and make some different things, diverse and stuff like that. Like you could have the regular Spidey and give him a new girlfriend, or give him a new villain, or whatever, or maybe someone else got spider powers. There's all kinds of ways you can do it. You know what I'm saying? On that one, and it just again, there has been this insane push on liberal leftist stuff and just shoving. I mean, like listen, there's a while for Netflix, and we like Netflix in the house, but it's like I had to watch and intensely screen everything my kid was watching, because who knows what kind of messages or potential agenda was going to be in there. And in fact, we've had people on the left, libs of TikTok. Why do you think libs of TikTok got so huge? Because they would openly brag about it in public. And then they try to take down libs of TikTok. Like, this is stuff that's posted out there publicly. Like, this is how insane this is. And that's the problem. This isn't about stories. This isn't necessarily about diversity by itself. This is just agenda. And it's nonstop agenda. So, at what point does it stop? And people are tired of it. Now, if you want to come up with a diverse Santa Claus, I have zero problem with that. I don't care. That's fine. Now, if you want to say, I'm not going to touch on some of these things. I'm just trying to think. There's a lot of things you can do in that respect. Who cares? We've seen Atlanteans depicted as, blue. We've seen them depicted as different colors. Like, I don't think anyone cares about that. We've seen them more humanoid. We've seen them a little bit half fish, different things like that. I don't think anyone cares about things like that. But I think that when you try to talk about George Washington or Vikings or just or existing characters, look, it's almost like what Justice Wendell Holmes said, if I remember this correctly, on a different subject, very different subject, when you see it, when it's, I think inclusiveness is great. We're all for diversity, freedom, love, opportunity, equality for everyone. But I think we also know when it's gone way too far. And that's where, South Park with the whole Enter the Panderverse went. It's like, dude, you can't just use the the multiverse and different dimensions to just wreck everything. And they've done it. They've done it I guess we could swerve into this a little bit. I mean, talk about like the Disney stock has cratered. has just getting. I mean, Bud Light has lost about $1 billion of sales. People just don't want to go. I mean, there's a lot of people that just, are bummed out on Marvel now. I mean, you look at the Marvels and stuff. It's just gone too crazy. Where it's not even so much. It almost becomes anti-men and anti-stuff. It just becomes. It's. I'm not saying that specific movie, but I'm just saying, like, talk to me about how bad. And Kennedy over there, who's running stuff like that, I think that there's been a new president. It's been a cleaning of the house. Like the House of Mouse is starting to, they're starting. And in fact, Earl, huge shareholder, just went to Disney World and with a bunch of other big wigs and stuff like that. And they said, yeah, and I'm going to get this wrong, but basically went undercover. Didn't do anything special, didn't do the whole thing, had a great line. He's like, yeah, everyone's smiling, everyone's so just not, they were all the employees were so happy, and it's probably because they don't own Disney stock. It was a great line. And he was on with Jim Cramer and basically saying that the board is not having appropriate oversight. This has lost the mission. As someone said, like Disney brand was that you could trust us with their kids, and it took a long time to build it up. I don't know that everybody feels that way anymore. And so, Kathleen Kennedy, I mean, tell me where we're at right now with the Marvel brands and the Star Wars brands. And you see this thing, and Gina, I'll end with this and turn it over. Gina Carano was on with Patrick Bet-David, and her lawsuit has been funded against Disney by Elon Musk. And Elon Musk posted like this internal communication about the requirements, the alleged requirements, like, it has to be this and all that stuff within Disney. Like, I mean, where are we at, Paul? How far has it gotten?
It's gone pretty far, which, as you said, has had real ramifications for Disney stock, for Marvel, for Disney Productions, for a number of these things. As you said, look, I personally, I don't watch a lot of Disney, but I have, watched a lot of Star Wars. I have watched a lot of Marvel. I'm not eager for any of it now. None of it. And we're before Endgame, I wanted to see everything. Now I'm like, how bad is the next thing going to be? And I believe a lot of people feel that way. And I thought you made a really good point a few minutes ago, which was this. There's a difference between championing or promoting diversity, but that doesn't, there's a line between that and becoming anti-male or whatever. And I think one of the problems with quote unquote wokeness in general is there's a lot of there can be, in some instances of it, a nastiness to it, almost kind of a vengefulness to it, rather than a seeking diplomacy or kind of like wanting to.
Paul, you there? We may have lost you there for a second on the connection. Or can you reboot that discussion right there? Paul, can you hear us? I think we're having a little bit of problem there with a technical thing there with Paul. I don't know exactly what happened there. Let me see if I can figure it out and pick it up here. 1 second. Paul, you able to hear us or no? Maybe. All right. Not a problem. We will do this. Let's see. We're kind of getting close here to a break anyway. I'm going to figure out the technical stuff here with Paul on that. But yeah, he was saying that like he's not excited for the Marvel movies. There's a little bit of a nastiness. And I think I can explain some of that, I think, in my opinion. And people have talked about this. Tucker Carlson and others have talked about this a lot. And that is basically like, in different aspects, in different respects, in terms of like, look, we're at a point, and Elon Musk has talked about this. We're at a point now where there's an attack on the family. There's declining birth rates. There are attacks on, being married and oh, you don't need a man and all this, and boss culture and all the rest. And the reality of it is, particularly in America, well, globally, the family unit is the key unit for civilization. Okay. And in fact, if you look at the communist systems, one of the first things they did was attack the family unit. And there are people like that are maybe more marginalized or whatever like that, and on the left, and you think about it, maybe they weren't, a 4-time powerlifting champion, or maybe they weren't the head of the cheerleader squad, or the captain of the football team, or something like that, or life went a little bit different from them, and now this is almost a payback. Like, listen, we want everybody to be happy and freedom, love, opportunity, equality, opportunity for everybody, but you don't have to have a vengefulness and a payback mentality or I don't know what you want to call it, and it seems like there's a glee in trashing the existing culture and trashing certain people, and there's almost like a like you said, a vengefulness or whatever you might want to call it. I don't know what you want to call it. I'm not quite sure. But it's just something that is just not cool, and it's too much. We're going to talk about in the final segment. There's a lot more to talk about here on the John D. Villarreal Show here on Newstalk 1040 AM. But Marvel's in trouble. We're going to talk about Google AI. We're going to try to wrap a lot of those things together in the final segment here and look forward. You're listen to the John D. Villarreal Show here on Newstalk 1040 AM, live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X. Right back at you. Stay tuned for the last segment. Hey, everybody, what's going on? It's me, John D. Villarreal, and this is the final segment here on the John D. Villarreal Show here on Newstalk 1040 AM, live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X. We had a little bit small technical things going on there with Paul. Did you have any final comments you want to talk about there with the whole diversity stuff and what's going on with Disney? We're going to continue to talk about that with Gemini AI. There's a lot to talk about here, Paul, but you had some comments you were in the middle of there. Oh, hold on. I think we're going to have to go on speakerphone. I don't think it's working. I don't think this connection's working right now. So let's try. Hold on one second. Paul, I got you on speakerphone. Let's try it this way. Go ahead. You want to say something?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep, sure can. Go ahead.
Okay. So, wait, are we on?
Yep, we're live. We are live right now. So you had some comments you were in the middle of there, and the other connection wasn't working, so we're just going to do it this way. What did you want to say? You were in the middle of talking about Marvel and some different things.
Yeah. Okay, so where I was at, and I think I know where I got cut off. It was, look, I think there are a number of people who of equal justice and social justice and so on and so forth, But as I mentioned previously, they're less supportive, or they become less supportive when it feels like, again, it becomes kind of an exercise in putting people down. Like if you're just, I mean, I know this because I'm in Pennsylvania and the bitter clingers and all this type of stuff. When a group is, when all you are is become a kind of the the group that's kind of scapegoated or whatever, it becomes tiresome. I mean, who wants to hear that you're the problem of all things in the world? I mean, that just, it doesn't, it's not, I don't think it's realistic. And I think it makes it more difficult for people to take the rest of what you're saying seriously. And so I think that's where a lot of people are at with some of these companies like Disney, like Marvel. I mean, again, we're the customer is saying to the company, look, make better productions and we'll support them. And then the Marvel, whatever's coming out saying, no, we're making good stuff. You just don't know. You're messing up here, not us. And that's why I think you start to lose people who otherwise might listen to what you have to say. And unfortunately, I think there's a lot of that going on right now.
Well, yeah, and in fact, I'm going to keep trying to route you through this other way, and we'll see if it works. If it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But one of the things that on that aspect, Paul, is that they're talking about, like, on the whole Bud Light thing and stuff. They would say, like, that VP of marketing. And I think that maybe I don't know exactly what happened. I don't know if she was. I don't know what happened there, but I think there was on an interview, it was like, oh yeah, that the Bud Light brand was bratty and fratty. So, like, when you're directly going against your customers, when you're not happy with your customers, and it's like what we say about with the insider on the Republican side, that they're not happy with their own base. That the GOP is not happy with their own base. And that's a problem, dude. I mean, that like, you can't have that. Okay. You can't have that situation. And I think it's the same type of deal. And that's where there's been a huge disconnect. And here in Florida, when you've got, the state being red and turning redder and redder and redder, and basically, a lot of the Disney, for the theme parks, a lot of the people that go are Florida residents. And so it's like, how do you make that work? You know what I'm saying? Like it's one thing to have Austin. It's another thing to have Austin dependent on the entire state for revenues. I mean, you can't be rocking that scene if you're Disney World. And there's a lot of places that at Disney, like, there's a lot of people that go, they kind of like, well, my kids love to go. They kind of like went past it. But when you start seeing this going against the actual, it got worse and worse and worse. For a while there, it just was too much, dude. And now Disney's in a position where they're losing just tremendous market share. So I think that's a problem. That's a huge problem. When you look at Disney, you look at Star Wars, and you look at Marvel, you look at Bud Light, you look at Mitch McConnell and the base. It's like, and someone else said it too. It's like, dude, the base it's done. It's a MAGA party, dude. That's where it is. You may not like it, Nikki Haley. You may not like it, Mitch McConnell, but that's where it is. And that's what I'm saying. It's one thing for diversity. It's another thing to just be nasty with the half the country, more than half the country now. What do you think about that, Paul?
I agree. I totally agree with that. And like I said, I kind of experienced the other day where somebody was telling me, I'm a sellout or whatever, which was completely ridiculous. But like I said, when I go and look at some of what they're talking about, whatever, it's like it fits in their worldview. I mean, it's kind of like, this section good, this section bad. I hate to say it, but I think what happened with Israel woke a lot of people up to some of this kind of the more toxic philosophical sources of some of these things. And, I know for a lot of people, that was a big wake-up call.
Sure, I can absolutely understand that. It's big wake up calls, no doubt about it. There's a lot of things going on there. On that, let's spin into this, which is along the same lines. And again, I don't want to make it too much about us and stuff like that. But there's a lot of people like, hey, John, like, you have so many degrees. Like, how'd you get in the car business and stuff like that? And I'll just say this: we've talked about before, but we probably don't have a lot of time right now, and there's so many other things to talk about. But I was doing YouTube full time in Florida, crushing it. Moved from the Greater Bay Area, Silicon Valley type of deal. The tail end of Silicon Valley and stuff like that. And I mean, it gets kind of horseshoes around, and so anyway, there's different definitions. It doesn't matter. I don't want to get into geography right now, but we were crushing it, growing super fast. Millions of views. Tens of thousands of subscribers and everything like that, and crushing it. And then we started coming out with videos on President Obama. The channel was originally called Conservative Media and stuff like that, and everything. And let me just tell you, at some point, things just bungee jump crashed. And then I'm in Florida, and it's like, oh man, what am I going to do? I'm getting married, and I need to get a job, and blah blah blah, and all that. And I stumbled in the car business, and I crushed it, right? And I'm one of the top in the country, and whatever, blah blah blah. Before too long, in my opinion, and making some serious money, and not compared to Silicon Valley, whatever, but definitely in Florida. Anyway, I don't want to get too distracted. But we were way ahead of people like Steven Crowder and a bunch of other people. We've been doing some good things, and people are like, oh, like I was like some loser, and what happened is that, well, I can't. There's a lot of weird things that happened there. New York Times interviewed my little brother Paul. They did articles on me. There was all kinds of different articles, hit pieces and different things that are happening there. A lot of weird things that were happening. A lot of weird stuff that was happening. The valley went dark. We talked about that. Friends wouldn't talk to me. It's all kinds of stuff, weird stuff. And it was a very weird time. And just think about it, like more recently, think about how a lot of people went through stuff with the pandemic, and whether they, however they treated their own personal health and stuff like that, and what choices. You think about that. That affected everybody. Well, this was definitely something going on in the valley and stuff like that. I was at events, and they talked about the YouTube too. I had been at the YouTube spot in Austin, and different things and different vibe. We were definitely like, when I went to Playlist Live, it's like, okay, I was there, but I wasn't part of the cool kids club. You know what I'm saying? And I can't prove a negative. I can't prove what happened. A lot of people are saying with Gemini AI and different things like that. It's like, yeah, there's no support, and nobody knows, and a lot, there's been legion of people, Russell Brand, a bunch of others that have talked about why they're going to Rumble, why they're going to X, why X is so important. Why do you think there was such a huge fight over the Twitter files, over Elon buying Twitter and stuff like that? Like, I mean, the domination of the propaganda and the control and the social media and the platforms is so critically important. Tucker talks about this and everything. But what I'm saying is we were crushing it. At some points, growing 10, 20, 30% per month. Very, huge amounts of views, stuff like that. If the graph is like, it's just like just mass, and then just bungee jumps down, crashing. Went from full-time income to, very much not full-time, not even. It's barely part-time income. Like, I can't get into, I'm not getting any specific of that, but I mean, it was a total crash very rapidly. And you had people who was just talking about this. I think Tim Pool. Yeah, I think Tim Pool was talking about this. Yeah, on the Timcast. And just talking about, like, for people that don't know, it's like, look, Mr. B, like, what they choose to put on the front page, you put something on the front page, you're guaranteeing, like, millions of views, whatever it is. And, I knew we call it starter kits. This is like, Madonna. We were never, Ellen DeGeneres. We were never going to get the Young Turks treatment. We were never going to get, on and on and on. And so I don't want to make this about us, but what I'm saying is now when people are canceled, dude, we were canceled. But I mean, I'm a legend. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. How about that? If we were canceled before people even knew what that was, if we were shadow banned before people, I'm not alleging it happened, but I'm saying if it happened, when I see the thing, here's what I'm getting at, Paul. When I see, because there's so much we can go in here too with all the history and everything like that. But when we see the current situation, and someone else said this too, and Tim Cass said this, that the algorithms play towards, rage and anger, if you will. And we've said that before. I'm not going to be a sellout for either side. I'm not going to do things that add more heat than light. I'm not going to do things I'm not going to be one of the verbal, pot stirs. How do I say? You know where I'm going. I don't want to say it, but I mean, we don't do things that are bombastic. We don't go that way. You know what I mean? We're entertaining, we have fun and stuff like that, but I'm not gonna do stuff that Ann Coulter does. I'm not gonna do stuff that Steven Crowder does. Sorry. And maybe that's not good for the algorithm. Maybe that is gonna hurt me, but we're not doing that. And when I see the Gemini AI, which basically, and that has caused huge problems. And a lot of people say like, what are you talking about? This is a mistake. We saw the all hands meeting, the town hall with the CEO Sundar Pichai and stuff like that. And listen, we love YouTube and everything like that. Okay, but people are kind of fed up with all this type of stuff. And after the 2016 election, and it was almost like they were at a wake. And a lot of people said, like, look, this worked exactly as it's supposed to. You had this AI, this is Google's AI. Everyone's raced to the AI now. You got ChatGPT, you got Elon doing his AI, you got Microsoft doing their AI, Google had their own AI. And when you plug the stuff in, you could not get a historically accurate George Washington. You couldn't get criticism of President Biden, but you could get criticism of President Trump. You couldn't get a historically accurate many figures. But you couldn't even get, and in fact, on the left, they were flipping out because you couldn't get a historically accurate World War II Germany. And I mean, when you see bias of that level, of that magnitude, Paul, whatever may or may not have happened to us, not surprising, bro. Let me put it this way. I was not surprised by that news story. Your comments.
Surprised either. I told somebody I wrote a post the other day on Twitter that, look, I was canceled in 2008. I was smeared in 2008 before people even knew it was a thing. So there's no question about
Yeah. Let me step in on that real quick. I love what you just said there. That's a very good way to put it. We can't 100% say what happened. This is the problem: is that you don't get feedback. You don't get things. We do know that. We're not going to get into some specifics, but let's just say that, like, I guess, yes, now that I remember it, it's fair to say that someone, somehow, some way, in my opinion, potentially may have been trying to cancel us, right? Number one. Number two, I love the way you put it right there. For sure, we were smeared. Okay. That's incontrovertible in my opinion. Okay. And it wasn't a one-time thing. It was like it was a number of things to both of us. Okay. And so, and again, New York Times putting your name in ink, in print with big time reporters and stuff like that. Like, dude, it's hard for me to imagine. I'll still say it this way. It wouldn't surprise me if we're on someone's list somewhere. And so this, like you said, back in 2008. And this is the problem with the Republicans. And this is the problem with Mitch McConnell. And this is the problem. This is why people are saying it's not never Trump. It's only Trump, because this has been such a long time coming. And there's people that just, they would have the meetings, they'd have the hearings, and they'd show, because I've been to these events. I've been to the Presidency 5, and you had the Google sponsored room, and the former CEO of Google there, Eric Schmidt, was there. Met him, was right in front of him, and stuff like that. And it's like, dude, Republicans and they hired former Congresswoman Susan Molinari, as part of their I don't know what you want to call it, lobbying team. I may be getting this a little bit wrong, but I mean, basically government affairs. And so, in my opinion, and it's like, dude, the Republicans took the donations too. In other words, they had chances. They had times where they were in office, where they had Republican Congress. They had chances to look at antitrust or do different things, and they didn't do it. Now, they were taking the money. It reminds me of Miami Tech. Hey, whatever, as long as the check clears, you know what I mean? Like I'm not saying that literally that's the case, or I'm not alleging anything, but I'm just saying like the voters felt like the base felt like they're not standing up for us. They're letting us get shadow banned. They're letting us get punked. They're letting us get canceled. President Trump himself was canceled on Twitter. Let that sink in. This is how insane it is now, Paul. People forget. That's the problem. We have short memories and we get gaslit out there in the media. Like, dude, they're part of it too, dude. So yeah, not surprised that this is all your comments.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. Like I said, whatever you want to call it, there were things that were difficult to explain based upon how they were going and then suddenly how they went. And we see this all the time now, but it was much less explored back then. But we know it. Like I said, the New York Times wasn't coming to talk to me because they were trying to promote what I was doing. So it was that was an obvious thing right there. And we went through this. We know it was, but it's like you said, look, this is definitely happening. Or it's certainly happening now. People are very aware of it now. But like you mentioned, this is why it's hard to kind of meet the left at the middle, because again, it feels for so many people, they feel like either accept or be canceled. Like there can't be a middle ground of like, okay, let's try to work on a solution that's here. It's like, no, you're going to do everything that we want. You're the bad guy. Da, 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 da. And if you don't accept it, we're going to cancel you or nothing. And so it feels like things have been too extreme or too tilted that way for too long. And like you said, people are rejecting Marvel. They're rejecting Star Wars. They're rejecting Disney because I think they feel like they're seeing this on the screen. Why do you have to make Luke look bad to make Rey look good? You don't need to do that, and so on and so forth. And I just feel like there is a burnout happening with all of this right now.
Well, yeah, it's not even. It's not even political. It feels personal. Like we want to punk you out. We want to humiliate you. We're in charge. It's almost like someone that feels like they got a short shrift or something like that in high school, and now this is the get back tour. I don't know what it is. I don't know, dude. It's so weird. You know what I mean? But like people are just done with it, dude. It's like it's not cool. You know what I mean? And independents and conservatives and moderates are just like, hey, we want a place where we can talk. We want a place where we can put up a video and not get banned and not get censored or something like that. And it's just gotten too crazy, dude. And when you see this AI, the future's everything in AI and it's going to take over. Not like this, players. And the thing of it is you've got other countries out there, other regimes. They're so mad about Tucker Carlson talking to Putin. Dude, you think Putin and Xi and a bunch of other, they've got to be laughing at us, dude. How are you going to take over the world? How is this AI going to take over the world like this, dude? This AI couldn't even tie its own shoes. This is so absurd. And the thing is, the fact that you couldn't even and Fox News has done a pretty good job. They keep putting in these different prompts to these AIs, and it's not just that. Microsoft's ones had some problems. Garbage in equals garbage out. When you've got and again, other people have said this too. Like, dude, it's so embedded in Google and stuff like that. It's unbelievable. But at the same time, what's hilarious is they just had some Google employees, I guess they're in Austin on the music division that tried to I guess they did unionize. I don't know what. And they were at some city council meeting in Austin and they got fired like live on the city council. It's like, and I feel bad for anyone to get, I mean, it's a tough economy. I don't wish for anybody to get fired, but I mean, it's like, it's so ironic and so interesting that the Don't Be Evil company that, you know, super liberal stuff like that somehow doesn't want people to unionize. So it's so weird, Paul. And now you're even seeing some unions actually giving some money to Republicans. So you're just seeing a wholesale realignment of politics and stuff like that. And I just feel like there is you just have to do massive changes at Google, and maybe they jump the shark. Maybe, I mean, obviously, you know, still the biggest search engine, still the biggest, you know, video platform. We love being on YouTube and everything like that, but it's like, you know, for a long time now, we haven't put the total focus on YouTube or anything like that. It's like we're looking at other things, other platforms, other ways to do stuff because it's just, you have to. I mean, and whether it's Russell Brand, Fresh and Fit, Tucker Carlson, all these other people, Patrick Bet-David, it's like you got to look at multiple platforms, dude. You can't, you know, I feel like it goes back to what I said before, and we got like 2.5 minutes here. 50% solution is not 100% solution. These guys, and it's more than that now. I mean, it's like a 40% solution, you know, or it could be getting close to 35% solutions. Like you can't, I think we lost the, we did. I'll go another for the radio audience here. We did lose our feed here. For the video feed, we did lose that, but my camera only lasts so long there because we had to do 5 seconds. But for the radio, we're going another 2 minutes here to wrap up. But a 50% solution is not a 100% solution or even less than that. And that is, you can't tell half the country or more to pound sand and expect them to spend their hard-earned dollars there. And I think that we've got to get off this ledge where everything is politics, and we're not just going to beat you about. We're going to punk you out. We're going to debank you. We're going to take your money. We're going to make sure you can't get a date. Make sure you can't get married. It's gotten super crazy, almost psychotic. Paul, your comments very quickly, minute and a half.
Yeah, it has. And to be fair, I think we have peaked with this, but
totally agree.
People are still, they're unhappy about it. And I don't blame them. I get unhappy about it because, like I said, there's an edge to it that just doesn't need to be there and doesn't help anything.
That's right. We need to step off the edge. There's no doubt about it. And people are tired of it. And whether it's Cat Williams or Joe Rogan, there's so many voices now. We've been there. And listen, players, we've been there from the jump. We've been there from we're talking to 2008, 2009, early on. We've been doing things for a long time. No doubt about it. And we're right here and we're still here. And we're happy to be here with you at Newstalk 1040 and live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X. And we're going to keep doing it, so that's what it is right there. Very, very interesting times. I am actually very hopeful. I'm an optimist, always been an optimist. That's how I roll. And so, we hope that you out there do well in your life and everything like that. We want to see America do great. We want to see you do great. We want to see Newstalk 1040 audience do great as well. But listen, we appreciate you being with us for this special edition right here of the John D. Villarreal Show. This is the John D. Villarreal Show on Newstalk 1040 and live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and X. Thanks so much. Stay blessed. We will see you next week, and we'll have results from Super Tuesday. See you then.